Hey, it's Thomas here on episode 6 of our Mega Build series of this big 265-gallon Marineland Corner-Flo Aquarium with Monterey stand and canopy in my daughter's playroom. On the last episode, I had to level the tank. Parts Plus came in, they did their thing, the tank is now perfectly level. I also announced that this is going to be a freshwater aquarium, which some people were not happy with, but I think most of you guys seemed really pumped about, and even those who were really hoping it was going to be saltwater seem to understand why I went freshwater. So for you guys, we'll do a saltwater series later on, but thanks for following along. And now we're going to do circulation because the sump has to push water, right? I got to get some water out of the sump into the tank, get that filtration going. I've got to get some extra circulation in the aquarium to make sure detritus goes to where it needs to go, and I can't do that without pumps. So I have some pumps, and I'm going to show you some pumps, and you're going to look at the pumps, and you're going to understand why those pumps were the pumps that I chose to pump the water. Back on episode 4 regarding lighting, I'm sure you guys remember I picked out a Current USA Orbit IC light, which is a part of Current USA's loop system. And at the time, Current USA had a promotion going on where the light shipped with a small E-flux wave pump, which I actually really liked, so I decided to get more E-flux pumps. So now I've got a pair of E-flux wave pumps along with one of their E-flux DC flow pumps to act as my return pump for the sump. Snazzy. Before I get into talking about the circulation pumps and other products I picked up to get this tank's water a-movin', I want to talk a little bit about cable management and keeping your stand nice and tidy, because to me that's really important. When I open up the doors to my stand, because I have to go in and service something or work on the sump or work on a filter, I want it to be nice and clean. I don't want cables hanging everywhere and things to generally just look like a mess, because it's disheartening and it doesn't make you want to do anything. It makes you want to run away. But we can't run away because we've got to work on the tank. So Current USA has made a hinged mount system that essentially lets you clean everything up and keep their loop controller and loop hubs and other products nice and tidy. And that's this one right here. So you've got the loop controller there, and right behind it, underneath, you've got all the hubs. It's all nice and tidy and neatly organized. Now, I still have to route some cables, but all in all, great product. You can mount it however you want. When I'm looking to pick up a return pump for a system, there's a few things that are really crucial to me. Number one, I have to have a pump that's going to be rugged and reliable and essentially deal with anything that gets thrown at it. The reason being, this pump is the backbone of the system. It is driving the filtration and essentially keeping this tank going. Although I do have a redundancy in place with the FX6, I still want this pump to be able to deal with whatever I throw at it. Number two, I want a pump that's going to have a good head pressure and be able to deal with back pressure, because when I've got hard plumbing like this, I've got some 90-degree elbows, 45s, T's, etc. The pump's got to be able to deal with those angles and still keep pushing water as efficiently as possible. And lastly, I want a pump that's going to run quietly. Obviously, no pump is going to be dead silent. You're always going to get a little bit of vibration or a slight hum from a pump, but it shouldn't be a loud vibration, a racket, a really loud hum that's going to be distracting. The tank's here to be visually appealing, not an audible nightmare. More recently, we're seeing a lot of DC pumps come out that are controllable, and that actually really appealed to me as well. I wanted a pump that I could get slightly larger than what is actually required for this system and use the DC controller to dial it back a little bit. That's actually just going to slow the pump down, the rotation of the impeller, rather than put back pressure on the pump with a valve. So that was really appealing. Now I can get a pump that's overrated, dial it in for exactly what this system requires, and if I ever want to add on some filtration or another media reactor or something, I won't need to get a second pump. I can just tee off and turn this pump up a little bit, and now I'm running both things. The Current USA E-flux DC flow pump fits snugly into my requirements. It's going to be a nice quiet pump. It's going to deliver a great head pressure and be able to deal with the plumbing that's under there. It's going to be a rugged and reliable pump, and it's a DC pump that is controllable. And at 1,900 gallons per hour, it's about 500 gallons per hour more than I require for this system, giving me plenty of wiggle room to dial it in, as well as extra room if I do make any add-ons. And with its compact design, it's going to fit easily into the return section of my sump, and hookup's going to be simple because they provide you with an array of different sized barb fittings. The DC flow pump has a set of rubber pump mounts, which is going to absorb vibrations while it's sitting in the sump and make sure that nothing carries through the system. It's also controllable from 0% up to 100%, which is going to make it really easy to dial it in and fine-tune that sweet spot. Like I mentioned previously, this pump is going to integrate seamlessly with the loop system, meaning I can control it with the loop controller or with the phone application, And the pump will actually give critical feedback to the loop system to alert you to problems such as low water level or a clogged impeller, which is stellar because that's a part of the reliability. Now, this pump can actually get mounted internally or externally, but I want it internally, so that's how I'm going to mount it. I am a really big fan of having a lot of flow within the aquarium. Obviously not to the point where your fish are stressed out, but just in general, because flow within the tank and breaking that surface tension and getting the water moving around is going to increase oxygen levels, which is great for your fish. The other thing that it really helps with is nutrient transport, which means getting all of the debris in the tank, the fish waste, up and out into the filter where it belongs so it doesn't settle. And the best way to do that is with good flow pumps within the aquarium. So of course, I'm going to be adding some to this tank, and being a massive fan of propeller style pumps or wave pumps that are traditionally used in reefs, I'm still going to be using them in fresh water. They create a massive widespread flow that's going to help prevent things from settling places without being like a little jet stream of water that's going to be troublesome for the fish to swim in. So that's what I've got here. I've got a pair of them. There's two options. You can get the eFlux wave pump kit, which is going to include the pump, the power supply, the hub, the eFlux LED display, and the remote. Or if you already have that eFlux pump kit or a loop system and the pump hub, you can just go get an accessory pump, which is just going to be the pump itself along with the power supply. Even though when I purchased my light, I did get the pump hub and an accessory pump, which essentially is all I need to get more pumps, I wanted to see that little LED display for the pumps and have a pump remote, just because I like to have the complete set. Not needing it at all, just wanting it. So that's what I did. Don't judge me. Now, I was really drawn to these eFlux wave pumps, not just because they're a part of the loop system, but because even as a standalone pump, they've got a really great feature set. They're small, they're compact, they're quiet, they've got a magnetic mounting system, and they've got several different modes you can program. Wave pulse mode, which simulates pulsing wave action, surge gyre mode, which simulates surging water currents, stream mode, which is basically just a steady flow of water out of the pump, and then there's actually a feed mode as well, which slows the pumps down for about 10 minutes, allowing you to feed your fish without the food getting blown around everywhere. For those of us with giant tanks, they also have 9-foot extension cables that are compatible with both the lights and the pumps, so you can get them exactly where they need to be and not worry about how far away your loop controller or hubs are. So I'm going to need a few more of these, because my tank is big, and I only got one, and I think I need 4. Now, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to use these because I might not actually need them, but I did go ahead and pick up a pair of ISTA Vortex water flow accelerators. These are essentially a penductor, another name is eductor, and what they do is they pull in extra water around the nozzle and force it through a cone. And what that's going to do is cause more flow and push the water further down the tank. The reason I thought that was important is because I have a 7-foot tank here, so getting water end to end on the tank is really important to me. However, it might actually be a little bit excessive considering I've got those flow pumps in there too, but I might try them, and if I like them, I'm going to keep them. These water flow accelerators are threaded on the end, just like my original lock line fittings that I've got up top with the duckbills on them. These would essentially completely replace those double duckbills on both sides of the overflow panels. Although I've got the Current USA hinge mount system, it's only got space on the back for 2 hubs and space on the front for the loop controller. So on the back, I've got the IC light hub and I've got the eFlux wave pump hub. But I've also got these guys I got to deal with. This is the flow pump hub, which has a control knob on it. I don't really want to hide this in case I want access to that knob, so I'll find a place outside of that hinge mount system to place it. And I've also got the LED pump display, which it's a display, so why would I want to hide it, right? So I'll find a spot to stick that as well. Maybe I'll find a drop-down unit beside here, or maybe I'll stick on the inside of the door, or I don't know where I'm going to put it. But when I do, I'll show you guys in another video, because I can't decide right now. It's too much thinking for one day. sure you've noticed I've placed the pump inside of the sump here, but haven't hooked it up to anything. That's because we had a slight mishap with the reinforced rib tubing. Now, I usually really like this rib tubing. However, it's a little bit tight on that barbed fitting that I've got hooked up here. And despite playing around with the barb fitting and playing around with the tubing and heating the tubing up and using a little bit of Vaseline, this is all that happened over and over and over. And that's obviously not going to work. So I'm going to go get some silicone tubing. It's got more give. I'll put a clamp on that and make sure it doesn't kink. I'll get some decent stuff. And next time you see this, it will be hooked up. So I've picked out all the circulation products, got the pumps under there. Unfortunately, they're not all hooked up, and that's because I don't have the tubing, obviously, that I need to get that pump hooked up because it failed miserably. And I don't have the extensions for the pumps so that they'll actually go all the way around the tank and then down to the loop controller. One of the trials and tribulations of having a really big tank. No big deal. Next episode, we'll get everything hooked up. We'll do a wet test as well. That way I can show you how the pumps are functioning, how they work with the loop system, because I think until you really see the loop system in action, you don't get a full appreciation for it. And I'd love to show you guys how that all works. So we'll go ahead and do that. And at the same time, maybe I'll bust out the filter media I picked out for the sump and show you guys what's going under there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions at all regarding the Current USA eFlux pumps, or the loop system, feel free to drop those down in the comment section below or reach out to us on social media like Facebook or Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we're going to keep pumping these videos out like ones on this big mega build series. And don't forget to keep on tanking because tanking is what we do and we must keep on doing it. Otherwise, we will be going against our innermost desires. Or at least mine. My innermost desires to tank on forever.